Good afternoon, and thank you for standing by. I'd like to inform all participants that your lines have been placed on a listen-only mode until the question-and-answer session of today's call. Today's call is also being recorded. If anyone has any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the call over to Ms. Wendy Peebles. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you, Operator. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Wendy Peebles, Census Bureau, and I'm your host for today. I'm excited to host the webinar Celebrating Manufacturers Day 2020. Before we get started, we will have some remarks from Alexis Offit, Director, Trade Facilitation Policy, National Association of Manufacturers. And she will speak on this Manufacturing Day and talk a little bit about the impact of the health crisis that is having on manufacturers. Also, we will have a roundtable interview conducted by Loretta Green, who is the Associate Administrator for International Trade of SBA. Celebrating Manufacturers Day 2020. On this slide, just wanted to share with you some best practices of global market expansion for successful manufacturers. Some takeaways from today's webinar is that you will be able to discover online tools to access valuable trade data, assist in finding new distributors and buyers, support with financing deals, as well as minimize non-payment risk and extend credit to your buyers. At the end of the webinar, we will have a resource slide that lists all our government agencies, websites, and contact information for you to contact following today's webinar. So here's the agenda for today. We will have introductions, an overview of Manufacturing Day, some agency highlights from our partners to include the Department of Commerce, Small Business Administration, and XM. And as I mentioned earlier, a roundtable interview with 3 manufacturers, also bankers' perspectives from First American Bank. And at the end of the webinar, we will have our Q&A session. And we ask that you submit your questions throughout the webinar via the chat to all panelists. So once again, please submit your questions to all panelists throughout the chat. And we will have Stephen Maroon, who will be monitoring the chat. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Alexis.
Thanks very much, Wendy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Allie Offit, and I'm the Director of Trade Facilitation Policy at the National Association of Manufacturers. First of all, I'd just like to say thanks so much to the Census Bureau, SBA, Exim Bank, and this commercial service for the invitation to be with you all today, and for putting on this great event to celebrate manufacturing and discuss the ways that the government can support manufacturers in expanding sales to global markets. As you may know, the NAM is the largest manufacturing association in the United States, representing 14,000 manufacturers, large and small, in every industrial sector and in all 50 states. Manufacturing employs more than 12 million women and men across the country, contributes over $2.3 trillion to the U.S. economy annually, and has the largest economic multiplier of any major sector. These impressive numbers are supported by international economic growth, which has dramatically increased opportunities for manufacturers to sell to the 95% of the global population living outside the United States. The NAM works to foster an open and fair global economy and propel the continued expansion of our vibrant U.S. manufacturing sector while also advocating for a level playing field. It's clear that exports are extremely important to a thriving manufacturing sector, and equally important is ensuring that the sector has a skilled workforce to make things here in America. And this is where Manufacturing Day comes in. Manufacturing Day is a nationwide event that allows manufacturers across the country to open their doors, this year both physically and virtually, to students, teachers, parents, and community leaders to show them what manufacturing really is like in the 21st century. By connecting with future generations and addressing common misconceptions about our industry, Manufacturing Day is one step in filling our skilled labor shortage and ensuring the ongoing prosperity of the whole industry. This year, Manufacturing Day is more important than ever, with historic unemployment and major opportunity gaps, but also with manufacturing careers at the heart of some of the most impactful work being done in response to the pandemic. Manufacturing Day is put on by the Manufacturing Institute, the workforce and education partner of the National Association of Manufacturers. The official kickoff of Manufacturing Day each year happens on the first Friday in October, and while many events will take place tomorrow, as more states declare October as Manufacturing Month, and as the pandemic pushes events later into the school year, Manufacturing Day events are scheduled through October and throughout the 2020 to 2021 school year. If you're interested in learning more about Manufacturing Day or hosting or attending an event, you can visit www.creatorswanted.org for resources. And if you're interested in learning more about the National Association of Manufacturers, feel free to contact me at my email address on the slide, aaafedt@nam.org. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today to celebrate manufacturing. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Loretta.
Thank you, Allie. I really appreciate that. We're so thrilled to be partnering with you, and let Jay Timmons know we really appreciate it. Wendy, also thank you so much. Census is so important to us on partnering. We are so happy to be celebrating our manufacturers with you. In a moment, we will hear from some of these manufacturers, but before we do, we've asked our Commerce, SBA, and XM experts to share some quick highlights of their services. First, we'll hear from Pam Plagans from the U.S. Commercial Services Advanced Manufacturing Team. Pam, welcome.
Well, Loretta, thank you so much. Hi, I'm Pam Plagans. I lead an advanced manufacturing initiative for the U.S. Commercial Service, part of the U.S. Department of Commerce International Trade Administration. I'm so pleased to join you today to celebrate Manufacturing Day 2020, the virtual edition. The Commercial Service has a network of 106 offices in the United States and locations in more than 75 international markets. Our mission is to help U.S. companies start exporting or expand exports to new global markets. The Advanced Manufacturing Team works with companies across the U.S. to export innovative American products and services. We are one of 20 global teams that provide industry or regional resources and solutions. We focus on promoting exports of machinery, materials, and technology related to additive manufacturing, automation, industrial materials and machinery, and material handling equipment, more easily remembered as the things that make the things. And we offer U.S. business, market intelligence, consulting, and B2B introductions. Exporters can tap up-to-the-minute market intelligence developed by our industry specialists based in the U.S. embassies and consulates around the world, in D.C., or wherever you may find an industry cluster. I'm here in Houston, for example, and our energy team is based here too. Additionally, we stay aligned with the rapidly evolving business landscape through work with industry partners or trade groups. Our organization offers consulting or counseling through our local trade specialists across the U.S. and by our industry specialists around the world, as well as B2B introductions between U.S. suppliers and foreign buyers. Many of you may be familiar with us through our Gold Key matching service, which provides confirmed meetings with prospective buyers and partners, or through the numerous events we attend, including Hanover Messe in Germany with 6,000 exhibitors, or NPE, the National Plastics Expo, or through the Discover Global Markets series, as you see the slide on slide up. Reflecting current conditions, we have moved our signature conference to the virtual realm. Discover Global Markets, Growth Opportunities in Intelligent Manufacturing will be connecting people, machines, and advanced materials and technology next week, October 7th through the 9th. Whether you're looking for your next international deal, finding a new partner, seeking advice in overcoming challenges, or want the latest in market intelligence, this 3-day forum provides the unique opportunity to pre-schedule meetings with representatives from key markets. Unprecedented challenges aside, it is a good time to be involved in advanced manufacturing. Exporting is good for the bottom line, and we'd like to encourage those companies that have yet to export to consider the possibilities, and for those current exporters to look at their potential for expanding into new markets. The good news on this beautiful day is that when it comes to exporting, you don't have to go it alone. There's plenty of help from the federal government, and you can find more on the Discover Global Markets, as well as U.S. government export resources by visiting trade.gov. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pam, so much. Really appreciate it. Next slide. Next, we'll pass the mic to David Leonard, SBA's Regional Export Finance Manager based at the Atlantic U.S. Export Assistance Center. David, it's all yours.
Thanks, Loretta, and good afternoon to everyone, and happy Manufacturers Day here from Atlanta, Georgia. My name is David Leonard. I'm one of the 22 export finance managers SBA has in the Office of International Trade located across the United States. One of the things that my colleague just pointed out is there are resources throughout the United States, and SBA, through our different partners, provide these services. One of them is on the call today, one of our lending partners that we'll talk about. The partners provide these services to help you identify markets, to help you to identify new clients, help you to go ahead with the financing you may need, to go ahead and provide terms to your customers, and also do the expansion you need to meet new contracts. We have 21 offices across the United States, but it all starts, first of all, generally with our international trade small business development centers. The small business development centers are located in every state and territory around the United States, and they have an international segment through counselors or through a specific office in every state. They're a great place to start when you're thinking about starting exporting or you're looking into going to new markets. They can work with you in identifying the market entry, what you need to do to get into a market, and then also train your staff as you're thinking about exporting. The resources right now, the counseling is always free. One of the advantages under the CARES Act, under the current administration, is that any counseling going on now, in addition to the training for going ahead and taking advantage of those services, are also free. So it's a great time to go ahead and reach out to those resources and take advantage of that to discover where your new markets may be and how you're going to go ahead and enter those markets. Next, we have our STEP grant. The STEP grant is a program that we work with the state government programs, where generally the Offices of Economic Development within your state is given a grant to go ahead and help you to identify and find new clients, new markets, new contracts, or to get prepared to work with those particular clients. The grants are a reimbursement grant. You go out, you spend the money, SBA through the state then reimburses a portion of that based on your expenses. You can apply directly through your state. You can go to our website there, www.sba.gov/STEP, and find the list of within your state who you contact about the STEP grant. Our loan programs provide the assistance to help you go ahead and do the business development, to go ahead and fulfill contracts, to think about if you're in a supply chain of a particular industry and you have to go ahead and provide terms, or if you're selling and you want to go ahead and find new clients and you're looking to provide terms. Our export working capital can provide either contract financing or asset-based financing, and we'll have one of our lenders to talk some more about that in just a bit. And then finally, our international trade loan allows you to go ahead and, as you need to expand your capacity based on the exporting you plan on doing, you need to refinance some debt, you need to think about how you're going to go ahead and meet that expansion needs. The international trade loan will allow you to do that. Finally, we have a new program called our SBA Fast Track. You can contact our office directly in Washington if you have a quick question, you need an answer within 24 hours. The Fast Track can take care of that for you at international.sba.gov. It's an email you can send in. We also have a phone number that will be available at the end of the call. But finally, I want to point out also, I'm in one of the 21 offices. As Loretta said, I'm located in Atlanta, Georgia. I cover Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky. I have 21 colleagues around the United States who also cover the entire United States and all its territories so that we can help you identify those local resources, what are available to you in your marketplace to go ahead and provide services that you need. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Loretta. Again, happy Manufacturers Day.
All right, David, thank you so much. That was excellent. Now, finally, we have Steve Maroon, Director of Marketing at Export-Import Bank. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Loretta. I appreciate this opportunity to inform our participants and manufacturers about the Export-Import Bank of the United States, also known as EXIM in short. EXIM is the official export credit agency of the United States. Our mission is to support American jobs by facilitating the international sales of U.S. goods and services. In particular, we really focus on small companies that trying to enable them to win sales that otherwise would go to their foreign competitors. Here's a little good analogy. Some of you may recall a movie that came out in 1970 starring Dustin Hoffman. It has a neat title, Little Big Man. This title perfectly relates to EXIM. EXIM is a small agency that provides a large amount of financing for U.S. exports. We have about 500 employees and 13 offices nationwide. EXIM assists thousands of small businesses, some with only sales of $1,000. On the other hand, we also support large deals. One recent deal was in Africa for nearly $5 billion. Small businesses are large at Exim. Small business transactions alone represent nearly 90% of all transactions at Exim. No deal is too small, and we provide support in over 180 countries. Our most popular product for small business is export credit insurance, as you can see on the slide. Export insurance is just like a regular insurance policy, similar to the one that you have for your car or your home. It basically provides protection. In this case, it's protection from foreign buyer non-payment. In addition to protection, Exim's export credit insurance also provides opportunity for small companies. With 95% of the world's population outside of the United States, there's a vast opportunity for U.S. businesses to boost their revenue. Exim Insurance assists exporters enter new and riskier markets. This opportunity, though, also poses a problem. Research shows that getting paid is the #1 concern of U.S. exporters. When a buyer does not pay, there is little recourse for the seller, and the financial hit can sometimes be significant. Consequently, many businesses are wary of entering international markets, let alone offering open account credit terms to their buyers. This is a serious issue and the reason why many people and companies use Exim Bank's export credit insurance. As you can see on the slide, Exim has 3 major benefits. Our export credit insurance prevents foreign accounts receivable generated by the sale of U.S. goods and services, as I just mentioned. The policy covers up to 95% of your company's sales invoice against non-payment due to commercial and political risk. Commercial risk could be war or insurgency, and commercial risk could include bankruptcy, while political risk could be war or insurgency. You can get non-payment protection for one buyer, a few buyers, or even your entire portfolio. And you basically pay as you ship, sometimes as little as 55 cents on $100. That's very inexpensive for peace of mind and allowing you to sleep better at night. Besides non-payment protection, Exim Bank Insurance also improves your company's competitiveness in the marketplace. While many American exporters resort to cash in advance or credit cards to avoid non-payment risk, most foreign competitors are able to offer their buyers open account credit terms, which are significantly more attractive to potential buyers. Why is this so? It helps the buyer's cash flow. It often takes them time to recoup their expenditures. Often when they have products in their retail room, it takes many months, if not a year or two, to sell that product. And when they pay cash in advance, their cash flow is hurt immensely. U.S. businesses negotiate open account credit terms, let's say 30, 60, or even 90 days with foreign buyers up front. Let's face it, global competition is intense. Many buyers now expect credit terms, and U.S. companies that are unable to extend credit may lose out on valuable sales opportunities. Furthermore, exporters have informed us that their customers tend to buy more inventory when they pay with credit card rather than cash advance. I think most of us that shop on Amazon can relate to that. Thus, Exim's credit insurance is a powerful marketing tool and sometimes could be your competitive edge to win sales for your company. Finally, I just want to mention that you can use this insurance to access more money. Basically, exporters can assign their Exim-insured receivables to their lender. These Exim-insured foreign receivables become collateral to the lender, so that the nice thing is you can get your money now rather than wait weeks to be paid. So in summary, I just encourage you to use Exim's export credit insurance to increase your company's international sales with confidence and little risk. Now back to our moderator, Loretta.
Okay. Thank you so much, Steve. Really appreciate it. Pam, David, and Steve will stick around for the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. Just a reminder, please pose questions to all panelists via the chat feature. So let's move on with the main event and meet our featured manufacturers. Next slide. Oh, here we are. Okay. We are joined today by representatives of 3 manufacturers who will respond to some questions. Luis Arguello Vice President of Demitec Corporation, leads the company's sales efforts and the expansion of their export business into over 100 countries. Under Lewis's leadership, Demitec expanded their operation to include the production of surgical masks and N95 respirators in order to meet the critical needs of frontline workers across the United States. Then we have Christina Caruth, Director of Sales, Commercial, and Space Programs. She joined Centivia in 2018 with over 10 years of experience in production design and sales engineering at both Bombardier and Embraer executive jets. At both Bombardier and Embraer, Christina was responsible for advanced design and new product introduction, as well as advanced technology. And we have Stephen Rowson, Partner, R&M International Sales Corp., who is an accomplished professional with over 22 years' experience in domestic and international business. This includes specializing in sales growth, optimization strategies, and management at the CEO and senior executive levels throughout the product life cycle. He is experienced in international trade and development, project management, finance, and banking. Thank you all for joining us. For the questions, we'll go through one at a time with each of you giving your response. First, tell us about your company. What do you make, and how long have you been in business? Louis?
Good afternoon to all. Demitec Corporation is a medical device manufacturer located in Miami, Florida. We make wound care devices such as surgical sutures, hernia mesh, endoscopic, laparoscopic devices, as well as facelift and open heart devices. Our company motto has always been to make the highest quality American-made medical products and sell them around the world. Currently, we are exporting to over 130 countries globally. When our company started in the late 90s, it was a small company with less than 5 employees. And today we have more than 600 employees. And the growth has been through hard work, but also through help. I can personally attest that we have used all of the beautiful programs that have been mentioned previously, from the Department of Commerce to EXIM to SBA, and they've helped us grow from a small company only selling in the United States to a large global player in the medical device industry.
Okay. Thank you so much, Louis. All right, on to you, Christina. Next slide.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here, and for everybody's attendance, happy Manufacturers Day. Pleasure to work for Centivia. Centivia is a portmanteau of 2 words, sintering and aviation, and we are the leader in global metal additive manufacturing for aerospace end-to-end use. We cover the commercial, space, and defense sectors, and we have successfully brought this new technology of manufacturing into production for commercial aerospace in the recent past 2 years. It's been an exciting journey, and there's many lessons learned along the way, but exciting to bring the added values of reduced weight for aircraft, as well as its combined part numbers and faster end-to-end manufacturing method as well. So thanks again for having me, and excited to tell you a little bit about our global journey.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Christina. Stephen, your turn. Next slide.
Good afternoon. This is Stephen Rawson from R&M International Sales. First of all, I'd like to thank Census, EXIM, SBA, and the U.S. Department of Commerce for hosting this Manufacturers Day. And again, with the other participants, I'd like to welcome all you manufacturers that are joining on the call. This is what it's really all about. R&M is a small to medium enterprise started by my father some 43 years ago. Our primary business is to take raw materials in textiles, plastics, and now carbon fiber, off-grade materials that may be a waste or a overstock from a manufacturer. We trade that, recycle that, and export it. We have markets all over the world. It's primarily focused on export. Some 75% of our markets are export, and Yeah, our business model basically is the reuse of raw materials. We deal with people who produce excellent American products, and we can find second use, second life for these products internationally. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Great. Okay, next question, and I'll just keep going in the same order. Louis, how long have you been selling globally? How many foreign markets are you in, and what has exporting meant for your bottom line?
The company has been exporting since its inception in the late 90s. When we initially started as a medical device company in the late 90s, we tried to break the U.S. healthcare market, and we had a very hard time competing against the large companies as Johnson & Johnson and the publicly traded companies. So at that time, because we struggled to sell in the U.S., we started to export. And exporting is what created our company. It's what helped us grow. The rest of the world loved made in the U.S., and that gave us the ability to grow our production facilities, grow and expand into new products, make the company stronger. And as the company became stronger, we then were able to re-enter the U.S. market and then start capturing a larger market share domestically. But we would never have been able to do so without first starting to export. And we used the programs that have been mentioned to allow us to take the risks to sell to somebody in Kuwait that we didn't know and be sure that we would eventually get paid. So we went from a company that was very small, having a hard time in the U.S., to using the export programs to sell our products around the world, grow the company, and eventually even be awarded the Exporter of the Year award. So I would venture to say that exporting is what created our company.
Wow, great. Christina?
Yes, thank you. So we were founded in 2012, and we've been exporting since then. Only 2-3 so far, though, so we're working to expand our international market. Currently, we're working with companies such as Pratt & Whitney Canada and Airbus in France, and then we also have some investors and customers in the Japanese market as well. I would say USA is still probably the most significant competitor or contributor to our bottom line, so we're hoping to continue growing this and again, as Louis said, take place on that U.S. Made in U.S. tagline.
Okay. All right, Stephen?
So our company, as I mentioned, started 43 years ago by my father when, due to political instability in Italy, decided to move our whole family to America. And arriving in America with companies beginning to produce synthetics such as DuPont, Hercules, ICI, he saw a real opportunity to take these materials and export them not only to Italy but many other countries in Europe and then Asia. We have today major markets all over the world, including Mexico, Canada, South Korea, Thailand, Spain, Germany, China, and Vietnam. Exports add a huge portion to our bottom line. We, in fact, also won the Exporter Award in 2019 for 4 consecutive years of increased volume and profits derived specifically from exports. So we're very thankful for all the help that we get from the U.S. government to allow programs that have facilitated us to increase our exports over the years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I love how the sales, just the robust global sales that we're hearing about. So, all right, next question. How have you utilized federal services to support your global sales growth? As an example, enter or diversify into new markets, add new jobs, or access to capital, etc.
We've used multiple of the federal programs, starting with Department of Commerce's help on grants for trade shows to go overseas and try to look for new clients. We've used their Gold Key services, where they will tailor a program for us to find specific distributors in a country where we need help. For example, we did one in Vietnam, and we were able to open 2 new distributors using a Gold Key service that we use with the Department of Commerce. Then we've used the Ex-Im Bank insurance policies to be able to sell on open terms to these clients so that they can hold more inventory and, in turn, sell more in the country. And then we've used the SBA loans to help us grow on the export side. And now with COVID, that we've started to ramp PPE production domestically, we've used the SBA loans for buying of a building and financing new equipment to be able to grow and scale the PPE production domestically. I can definitely say we would not be where we are today if we didn't have the help that we have from the 3 major federal programs. And we appreciate your help and everything you do for companies like us domestically.
All right, great. Christina? Christina, do we have you? I wonder if we lost her. While Christina gets back online, I'm going to go over to Stephen.
Thank you. Yes, similar to other participants, we too have made very good use of many of the services and programs available from the U.S. government. Specifically, EXIM has been a key aspect of our business. EXIM provides credit insurance and loan facilities to our bank that allows us to borrow against for our export business. Credit insurance really has taken the counterparty risk out from our transactions. We have been able to enter many, many new markets where we have export insurance that guarantees 90% of the transaction's value in case anything goes bad. And so markets especially that are third world or difficult situation and political risk, it's very difficult for small exporters like ourselves to be confident that we will get paid on our transactions. SBA most recently has been also another key program. We applied and got approved for a 504 for a new facility so that we could increase our export business. We're looking at the ITL program for future developments. We've got plans to buy new machinery to increase our exports, and we think that the ITL program will allow us to buy that machinery to do these exports.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Excellent. Christina, did we get you back online?
I should be back if you can hear me.
Yay. Okay. So we were
sorry about that.
We were just asking about the federal services.
Absolutely. So I'm really excited to say that we took part in the trade mission to France last year, and Syntavia was introduced to additive, primarily we were interested in additive manufacturing both in France and in Germany, and then we actually concluded in Poland as well. And those relationships are still strong today, and we're still working on sales through that. So we really, really appreciated that opportunity. And that was supported through Formnext 2019, which is primarily an additive manufacturing trade show. So it was really great to develop those relationships, continue them at the trade show, and then continue them to this day.
Yeah, great. Okay. All right. Next question has to do with COVID-19. How have you been impacted by the current world health crisis? How has coronavirus changed the way you do business? Louis?
COVID-19 has been a surprise, I think, for all of us. We in the medical industry thought that we were in a recession-proof industry. Never did we think that medicine would be down. But with COVID, people have been afraid to go to the hospitals, afraid to get procedures done. Operations have been stopped. So it definitely took a very big toll on our company. And at the time, our company had a decision to make in terms of downsizing or furloughing employees or finding something new and adapting. So we created our own machines to make masks and got into production of surgical masks and N95s, and the PPE production has gone very well. We've created 500 new high-paying jobs using automated equipment here in Miami. So COVID has been a time that really tested our company. We adapted, we changed, and we are much stronger for it. So it's been a learning experience.
Yes, yes. Christina?
Yes, a little bit of a different perspective, but still a positive perspective from Syntavia. We've definitely grown, not 500 employees, but definitely we're a small business. We're about 75 employees. We definitely had 5 to 10 and we had our greatest sales months in both July and August. So we're really, in a weird way, appreciative of the way it has changed people's mindset on how to manufacture, quote unquote, traditionally. So having a new technology in this time and providing niche solutions such as reduction in supply chain complexity, being able to quickly retool production capacity for a new product, and not being susceptible to labor shutdowns has really been proven to be a success for us, and to show solutions where maybe our customers wouldn't have looked before. So disruptive times call for disruptive solutions, and we've been experiencing an increased demand.
Excellent. Okay. Stephen.
Yes, a little bit different than our other two panelists. It's really hit us quite hard. The Triple-B, with our international exports, both volume and value of raw materials have been down. So it's made it very challenging. We were expecting this year to be a boom year, and it was very difficult for us. We had to do a lot of adapting to try to manage and increase sales. Our volume of sales went down slightly, but the value really went down the most. We're very tied to international commodity prices. So you could imagine a lot of international manufacturing slowed down, and therefore orders, prices were depressed and obviously affected orders. We did focus in this time on development of new business. So that was our primary focus. And to give you an example, we're one of the key supply chains in carbon fiber. We get carbon fiber for recycling and reprocessing from most manufacturers in the USA. And we're now working on future developments for creating 3D filament for carbon fiber, long carbon fiber pellets, and thermoplastic engineered carbon fiber reinforced plastics. And these are all new business lines that will help to develop our future growth.
Okay, wonderful. Yes, I've enjoyed hearing how you all have met the challenge over the last few months, so thank you. Okay, we have our last question. What is your best advice for a manufacturer looking to enter or expand sales in the global marketplace? Any experiences, good or bad, that they can learn from? Louis?
I would give two pieces of advice. One would be to stay true to your brand and your image. I think that ultimately what gives you longevity in the markets, whether that be domestically, internationally, is having a good brand that stands for quality. So we've always had a lot of pressure internationally to reduce price, to compete with China, to compete with Asia, and we've never given into it. We've always been more expensive, and we've lost sales for it, but we have a good brand. So when we pivoted to a new product like masks, everyone trusted the brand and trusted us with their health. So we automatically had a large ramp up. Whoever would have compromised on the quality or the brand image, we wouldn't have had that success. So I think it's important to stay true to the image that you want for your company. And the second would be ready to adapt, because business is never the way you expect it to be. There will always be ups and downs. And when the downs come, you have to be ready to either sustain the down or change and pivot to something that will get you through it. So never be stuck in a way. Be ready to change when the time is needed.
Got it. Okay, Christina.
Sure. So my advice is find that unique capability that potential customers cannot find in their local markets and market accordingly. So our ability to bring metal aerospace parts from development to production provides a niche solution that is required internationally and not found internationally. So we've targeted a global aerospace primes that require this added value, and methods of doing so have been conferences, digital marketing, positive references between international aerospace companies as well. In parallel, we've also become affiliated with an Additive Manufacturing Green Trade Association, which is another way to meet different types of customers in the same field and get your name out by being true to your form, but also looking into the benefits that aren't maybe monetary from your manufacturing supply chain. So we see additive manufacturing as a greener solution, and being able to talk about that quantifiably and the added value that brings to the environment as a whole has reached out to a different category of customers as well. So doing that in parallel has been great for us internationally, and we've been working with groups all over Europe and internationally as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks. All right, Stephen?
Yes, so similar to other panelists, I would say, number one, take advantage of everything that's available to you. I know that doing business in the U.S. allows for some fantastic programs that we talked about earlier, the XM, the SBA, the Gold Key services. Gaining customer access is key, and how do you find those customers? And there's a lot of programs out there that can help you to find those customers. For R&M, standing by our products. So we deal in secondary products, and we, over the years, have gained a reputation for always standing by those products. Sometimes it can be variations or challenges, and if they know that you are a trusted, reliable supplier, people will come back and will do business with you again and again. We certainly have found that through the years. I think the unknown can be scary. Not knowing which markets and what markets to get into can be a challenge, but it's absolutely worthwhile. And I think identify the competitive advantage, identify what's coming down the track, and go after it.
Wow. Thank you all. This has been such great insight. I really appreciate it, Louis, Christina, and Stephen. To the folks on the phone, please remember to send any questions to all panelists via the chat feature. Before we move on to the Q&A, we've invited Dan Pichet, Senior Vice President, First American Bank, to share some thoughts on manufacturing in the current environment.
Thank you, Loretta. Thank you for.
I was going to give a little bit more about you, Dan.
Please do. I need as much help as I can get.
Dan and his team were awarded the SBA's Export Lender of the Year in 2017 and the President's E Award for Export Services in 2018. In 2019, Daniel was appointed by Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross to serve on the U.S. Department of Commerce's Trade Finance Advisory Council, which is tasked with improving access to trade finance solutions for small and mid-sized exporters. Thank you for joining us, Dan, and now it's all yours.
Thank you, Loretta. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here, and which would like to build on some of the comments that were made by my fellow panelists. There's a lot of questions about the credit market and the banking environment now, and is it open, is it closed? I think the reality is really that it's changed, and in certain segments in certain markets, it's a little more open, and others it's been restricted, and it's the first downward change in the credit environment that we've seen in a decade. If you think of the stories, such as Dematech and R&M and Centriva, the international trade really benefits being proactive, and this really ties in with working capital. And the SBA's export programs provide a flexible and adaptive program that can meet a variety of needs. Earlier we heard David and Stephen talk a lot about terms, and to quote one of Stephen's colleagues, Mike Howard at the XM Bank, 90 is the new 60. And when it comes to selling, whether it's domestic or international, with credit tightening, the ability to offer terms is extremely valuable. So in the combination of the SBA and XM programs, the SBA allows for flexible financing options. XM gives you some of the backing through its trade credit insurance policies to protect your sales and collections. And that combination is really critical. A lot of trade finance and sales in general, especially as they require working capital, tend to be very reactive. And I think now is the time to be very proactive in terms of establishing relationships with local professionals who can help you export or help your business grow. And there's certainly a lot offered through Commerce as well as the SBA and XM Bank, as well as getting an understanding of what you can afford. I've always found it curious that companies would enter into a contract before knowing how to finance it. And sometimes it works out and other times it doesn't. And I think the advantage of both the SBA working capital programs and EXIM's insurance is that they scale very well. They don't require a significant investment to hold the program. So you can actually have the tools at the ready for the opportunities that come up. And I think coming out of this and to build on Lewis's comments about the demand for U.S.-made product, there's going to be some opportunities, and I think proactive thought is really necessary to position your business and your manufacturing company in a way that allows you to take advantage of them. There's been a lot of good stories here today from manufacturers who have expanded their brand internationally, and a lot of programs available to support manufacturers who are looking to grow internationally. I think now is a great time to reach out and build a team who can help you support your international business.
Okay, Dan, thank you so much. We really appreciate your observations and your advice on accessing capital. All right, now we're going to move on to the Q&A period. I'm going to be turning it over to Steve Maroon with EXIM. He's been monitoring questions coming into the panelists. Steve, back to you.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm going to be coming back to you because a lot of people have asked, are they going to get the slides after this presentation?
Oh.
Yes, we can certainly make the slides available either via the website or we can mail them individually to all the participants that are on the call today.
Great. Thank you, Wendy. Someone's asked about if people have EXIM credit insurance, will their banks allow you to borrow against your insurance? And I did mention that basically the insurance allows you to increase your borrowing base because you're insured. Your receivables are insured by the federal government. Full faith and credit of the federal government. So the lenders welcome those receivables because they have no risk, basically. And so they can use them as collateral. So you can get your money instantly instead of wait a long time. Now there's a question here for commercial service. They'd like to know about the Gold Key program in particular. How do the embassies overseas help exporters find buyers?
Well, thank you very much for the question. Yes, our Gold Key service is very popular and very successful and has led to a lot of great transactions for our clients. Talking to your trade specialist is the best place to start. The Gold Key service has gone virtual at this moment. So we are working with the embassies and consulates around the world to offer it where we normally provide 3 to 5 pre-screened meetings for companies with those who in the foreign market that meet your parameters. And unfortunately, we yesterday you missed the deadline, but our services were free until yesterday, so our regular pricing is being reinstalled today. Again, talking to your trade specialist about the best strategy for using the Gold Key service is the best place to start.
Great, thank you. This question's for Dave Leonard, the SBA. Is purchase order financing available?
Yes, under both our Export Express program and Export Working Capital program, we do what's called transactional financing, where we can finance foreign purchase orders with export purchase order from foreign buyers. So the contact your local export finance manager. You can call me directly, and I'll make sure you get that right contact.
Okay, Dave, while I still have you, someone's asked, does anyone cover trade show and marketing? Where can I find grants or loans for trade shows and marketing events?
That's a great question, a great lead into something I talked about, of the STEP grant. You can go to our website, www.sba.gov/STEP, and there's a list of the state agencies. We give a grant to the state who can help you in those expenses to attend those opportunities. The STEP grant is specifically for that, and it's right now the new awards just went out. So if you have a question, feel free to give me a call. Again, David Leonard, or you can just go to that website I gave you, and it'll give you your local contact at the state.
Great. Here's a question for commercial service again. Pam, why would a company use the U.S. Commercial Service for due diligence if they have private sector resources on the ground?
You know, using the Commercial Service as a source for due diligence is really such a great strategy for so many companies. If you have commercial resources on the ground, it augments their knowledge. It's also a disinterested party who's doing the research, and oftentimes getting the information through the U.S. government is perhaps easier or a different perspective than you perhaps would have gotten normally.
Great, thank you. This question is for our exporter panelists. What advice would you give to other small businesses that want to start exporting? We'll start with Stephen.
So yeah, I think we mentioned some of that in the last question on the panel, so I just would re-echo.
Yeah, they probably came in late.
Yes, contacting the various U.S. Trade Department, local SBA offices, especially that Gold Key service is fantastic. Now with the internet, researching local markets is really so much easier, and so you can find possible identified key markets initially via simple Google searches. So you can find markets that would be suitable for your products. Once you do that, you can then narrow it down to a list of a few, and then create a plan to access those markets. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good start.
Great. Here's a question for Louis. It's perfect for him because he's a vice president of sales. Does exporting take away from your domestic sales activity?
I would say no. For us, we always, if we have more sales, we expand capacity. Traditionally, export pricing tends to be lower than domestic pricing. At least on the medical products, you'll find the U.S. pricing is higher. But I guess it would be your choice. In our experience, it's been best to diversify and get as many clients in as many countries so that in case there's a problem in one country, even in the U.S., which we wouldn't have thought about pre-COVID, you have a way to balance your sales.
Excellent. Pam, here's a question for you. What type of research does the Commercial Service offer to exporters?
Well, thank you for asking that. Actually, I wanted to chime in with Stephen's answer earlier about identifying markets. And once you kind of get to a point where you think you have some ideas and you want to run them by someone else, that's where we come in with the Commercial Service Office. We have recently rolled out a new service called an initial market check, and it allows you to kind of run the traps on this list and see where there's opportunities and perhaps where there's maybe, fewer opportunities without, prior to investing a lot of time and money. With regards to our services overall, as a team leader, I tend to focus on delivering a lot of services through trade shows and trade events where we already have a good group of companies that have committed to an interest in various markets. And we offer a lot of B2B and B2G, business to business and business to government, counseling or matchmaking opportunities on site. The Commercial Service, as I said earlier, well known for our Gold Key service, our international company profiles, the background checks. We have a wide assortment of services, and if I went through them all, I would bore you all. But we really help you to customize what you need by talking to your trade specialist or talking to one of our colleagues overseas in the embassies or consulates around the world.
Great, thank you. Very good answer here. Here's a question. With the shutdown or decrease in travel, do you see other companies opening up for travel trade missions, or is this still a virtual trade mission environment?
If that's for me, I'll tell you
I think that'd be best for you.
Definitely the virtual trade mission environment. And it's interesting, I know we've been running virtual trade missions for years for various industry sectors where it kind of works, have ramped that up in recent months to see how the success goes. And I've actually seen some of our trade show partners that are starting to roll out virtual trade missions. So it looks like it's something that might be around for a little while.
Great. Christina, could you expand on, as Director of Sales, what do you do for travel and meeting new customers?
Absolutely. At first, after COVID, it was very much virtual, and it's beginning to open up again, obviously, but of course, adhering to the CDC guidelines and standards. Of course, face-to-face within 6 feet is really necessary for some critical programs that we're working on. So we are making a couple of exceptions of having visitors and traveling, but it's greatly reduced compared to, let's say, 2019. But again, that hasn't affected our baseline, and we're still finding the need and finding customers. So it's interesting to see how that has changed, but sales has still increased.
Great. Thank you, Christina. Louis, here's a question. Regarding medical technology, do you have a lot of obstacles in your way when you try to enter new countries?
Yes. Usually you have impediments from registrations, where a lot of countries will require you to register. Sometimes you get distributors who will try to trick you into signing an exclusive contract. They can tie you up for years. So it's important to know who you're doing business with. We've had certain countries, for example, Yemen. Yemen has a strange law that once you have a distributor, it's almost impossible to get them out. So if you ever have a question in a country where you don't know who you're going to partner with, you can use the Gold Key services to really do some diligence on the country and make sure, on the distributor, to make sure they're the correct partner. So it's important to know who you're doing business with internationally.
Great. That leads up to this next question, which is about a particular country, and that's Uzbekistan. And that's, how do you qualify individuals in countries like Uzbekistan who contact your company and want to represent your company? That's basically be a distributor for your company. I'd like to open that up with a panelist, starting with Stephen.
Again, I guess the due diligence is really the key, especially with these countries where might be a language barrier or might be a different trade ethic than you're used to in the USA. We tend to be very careful about that sort of business. We maybe initially require letters of credit to assure trade for the first few times we do business. But it's really getting to know the counterparty, I think, is absolutely critical.
Are there any parts of the world, Stephen, where you find more concern about risk of doing business with them?
I think, it's hard to single out. I think certainly there are. I would say Europe is an easy place to do business.
Right.
North America is an easy place to do business. Many parts of Asia are now becoming easy places to do business. There can be challenging parts in Africa. And now I guess the third world countries are maybe where there's a little bit more corruption. You have to just be very wary. So we tend to tread very lightly in places that are less developed where there's higher risk. But it can be done. It just needs to be managed, and you need to really try to mitigate the risk to the trade.
Great, thank you. Christina, do you want to add anything to that about going into riskier countries? I think you're on mute. Christina, are you there? Okay, we'll go on to Louis. Louis, do you see any opportunities for U.S. exporters of PPE, that's personal protection equipment, or has the U.S. reached proper manufacturing levels of PPE?
Currently, we haven't exported anything. Everything we're making, we're selling within the United States, which I think that we probably have many years to go before the U.S. can supply itself. I think the U.S. is a big market. We did this in an altruistic way and to try to make sure that we have the products that we need to serve our own community. So I don't think that we can make enough, but we also still have a major problem here in this country in which if the government and the people don't do something about protecting U.S. manufacturing, we will end up in the same position that we were in a few months. I can tell you personally, from the production that we're making, we're significantly more expensive than China for two reasons. One, we use all U.S. raw materials where the filters actually work versus Chinese masks that don't work. And we pay our workers a good wage versus Chinese subsidized labor. The problem that there is domestically on PPE, and I hope there's a lot of people listening, and I say this because I hope people talk to their senators and really push this, is only the federal government is requiring to buy American product. If you look at the states, the cities, the counties, the private entities, the hospitals, everyone is buying Chinese product regardless of the fact that they know it doesn't work. So if we want to create manufacturing in this country again, we have to protect American manufacturers because China, Asia, they do not play fair. They subsidize land, they subsidize buildings, they subsidize wage rates, and the products come in here dumped, and that's why our middle class is dead. So I hope there's people listening, and I hope people go and really push that if we want to make things in this country, from PPE to drugs and the pharmaceuticals that we need, we have to protect U.S. manufacturing.
Excellent. Great answer. Thank you, Louis. David, I've got two for you here. Can you use the SBA for foreign military programs?
You can. Actually, I work real closely with the Army Center in Huntsville, Alabama. There are Air Force and other centers around the United States, and those programs are eligible under our export assistance. Generally, we're working with the companies that are in the supply chain to the larger manufacturer who is supplying fulfilling the contract. So you do have to keep in mind size standard, but otherwise, yes.
Okay. Pam, here's a question. We are owned by a German group. All the employees, locations, and profits are kept in the United States. Does this restrict our ability to access commercial service programs?
No. Actually, because their significant, if you're saying in that the German company's significant employment base is in the United States, it won't limit it, but clearly, if, each is on a case-by-case basis, but if they're significantly employing a lot of Americans, we're here to help create jobs in the United States.
David, does the SBA cover indirect exporters?
We do. If you are a U.S. company selling to another domestic U.S. company who then exports your product, that is an indirect export. In our loan programs, you're eligible for those and working with our export programs. So just as a direct exporter would be.
Great. Here's one for commercial service. I'm a woman-owned business. Do you have any advice on how I can get special support?
Again, and that's fantastic. We just finished up a Women Doing Business Globally conference. And again, the best place to start is with your trade specialist. We do have some programs that are tailored for female exporters. And those kind of perhaps also are wrapped around specific opportunities. So I would say don't wait. Contact your trade specialist. They can turn you on to the opportunities that are coming up soon.
David, how long does it take to turn around an SBA loan? I guess that's going to depend on which one they apply for, but could you give some time parameters?
Yeah, you're very correct. It does depend on getting a complete application to the lender. Once that's done, which is generally the biggest hurdle, is making sure you've got all the documentation to the lender they're requesting. They can generally do them in less than a month. So the thing to do is what I recommend is always visit with your Small Business Development Center. As we talked about earlier, Small Business Development Center will help you put a package together so that when you go to the lender, you've got something that is ready to go and eligible. So the great place to start is at your Small Business Development Center. You can go to the ASBD, the American Small Business Development Center website, click on Find Your Location, look at your local center, and they'll get you the assistance you need to put that together.
Great. Thank you. Here's a question for Dan from the lender perspective. How much foreign currency pricing do you use with your clients that sell globally? And can foreign currency pricing work in concert with SBA and EXIM programs?
Thanks. The majority of our customers tend to sell in U.S. dollars. It's a pretty widely accepted currency. You can use it in concert with SBA and EXIM transactions. We do strongly, if not require, currency hedging, whether it's a forward contract. It really comes down to how the underlying transaction is structured. But if you can sell in the local currency, you have an opportunity to obtain new sales, but also improve your margins because you're taking care of their FX transaction or the FX risk for them. So there can be some benefit there, and it's often part of a broader strategy.
Great. Thank you, Dan. This is a question for Louis and Stephen. I'm not sure if you can answer this, but this exporter is having nightmares, he says, with custom regulations at foreign ports and officers who are only looking to get their hands greased. So that adds more complexity to exporting. Have you come across any of those challenges?
Louis, do you want to go ahead, or do you want me to try it?
You're welcome to go first.
Okay. So, yeah, we have experienced similar challenges. A country that has had challenges like that has been India for us. This is a real problem, and you have to try to your best to deal with it. What we have found is if you have a local agent who knows the environment, maybe even knows the customs officials, they have local ways of dealing with it. We do a lot of business through agents. We find a trusted agents in the country, and then they manage these sort of situations for us. Now, we don't condone any sort of bribes or any sort of payments to officials in any way because it's really, really bad for business, and it never has good results. We do pay local agents a commission on sales, and they help with the local problems. It's unfortunately in a lot of less developed countries you find this problem, and that's how we've handled it.
Thank you. Louis, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, we do our business a little different. We sell all of our orders ex works. So we refuse to get involved with any of the customs importing, specifically for those reasons. One, we don't want to be liable. We don't want to pay the duty fees. We don't want to be even asked for any sort of bribery, which is illegal. And ultimately, if you are asked any of these things, you need to report it. So what I would recommend to anybody is as much as you can, try to sell ex works and let your international distributor worry about the importing. So we work, we'll have our freight forwarders quote, and we may pay the freight, but ultimately the actual importing is up to them. So I would suggest, as much as you can, let the local parties have to deal with all of that.
Great. Thank you. Do we have time for a few more questions? I see there's about another 10. Maybe we'll do one or two more. Is that okay, Wendy?
Yes, sure, that's fine.
Okay, here's a question for the panelists. When you develop your export strategy, how do you approach that project? Do you go for as many countries as you thought you could handle, or are you country-specific and develop one country at a time? Louis, you want to start with that one?
We will go after as many countries as we can handle. I think it's more important about having a good plan in each individual country in which you go in. So if you go into a country, it's important to choose your partner correct. Many countries will try to force you into an exclusive agreement, which my strong suggestion to everyone listening is always fight that contract for as long as you can, because promises ultimately internationally don't mean much, and it's very difficult to enforce a contract internationally. So what we always try to do is do our diligence, find out who the partner is, and ask them to show us what they can do first. before we enter into an exclusive contract with them. And then we would fully support that partner to get the project up and running. So I think it's more important about choosing your strategy in the country correctly, because if you go in incorrectly, a distributor can burn your brand. And once that image is burned, it's very hard and it takes a long time to recuperate it. So I think it's less about how many countries and more about when you do a country, do it correctly.
Good perspective. Steven, you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I think the only thing I would add is it's important to know your limits and know what you can handle. I think it's better if you start out with a specific targeted market in a few countries that you know you can service. If you can service all of them at once, that's wonderful. But if you stretch yourself out too thin, you may not be able to handle, and then could cause yourself more problems down the track. I mean, that's my experience in our business. We've always grown country by country, but it's really due to our size and the number of suppliers we have. So,
thank you. Here's a question for David Leonard with the SBA. We lease our U.S. manufactured equipment to Canada. Does SBA working capital loans cover Canada? Especially when basically the question is, does the SBA cover lease equipment?
We can do permanent working capital loans for you to make inventory, and then you'd have to set up a leasing payment. Working capital loans are set up to assist where you have a receivable that's paid generally within 60 to 120 days. So a lease payment would not be eligible, but you could build the equipment and then get additional financing to do the actual lease of that product.
Okay. Exum available for service companies? Yes, we are. We treat service companies just like we do companies that make products. And let's see. Here's a question for Pam. What are scenarios where a U.S. company would not qualify for formal advocacy by the U.S. government to help them win an overseas tender?
That is a great question, and I would say that it really, you have to look at the project. So I would, again, defer to, a lot of what we do is so customized to the situation and to the seller. I would say, generally speaking, though, for advocacy, it's related to jobs, where the jobs are going to be created. And there's going to be other qualifications, kind of depending on the product or service, the time. We know that, things are changing rapidly. So, again, we're happy to talk to any company interested in advocacy to pursue that with our colleagues in Washington and around the world.
Hi, Stephen. You're doing a great job. Can we take one more question and then wrap up, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate the extra time Census given us. This is a question for you, Dan. Do you evaluate U.S. companies that come to you for loans differently for domestic business versus international business? I guess that question is more about criteria and evaluating.
No, I think the criteria really gets down to the company, its historical performance, and management. So anybody whether you're expanding into a new market internationally or opening a new product domestically, I think it's going to be viewed with some concerns about the ability to execute. That's always my main concern when it comes to somebody starting exporting, is just making sure you have the right support staff and services in place to do it correctly and successfully. So I'd say we underwrite very similarly. It's just when it comes to international, there's additional considerations. Louis talked on shipping and his use of ExWorks, trade credit insurance, letters of credit, and then foreign currency issues. So there's just more to consider internationally, but fortunately there's a lot of good resources available. And it's a pretty small world. You'd be surprised at how willing a lot of us are just to help an exporter because, once you get going, it really does get a lot easier, and there's a lot of services to take advantage of.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Back to you, Wendy.
Okay, great. Thank you all for your participation today, celebrating Manufacturing Day 2020. A lot of great questions. So there were a number of valuable takeaways from our presenters today. So I just want to say special thanks to the National Association of Manufacturers, all the manufacturers who shared their best practices and strategies to increase global opportunities, especially as they face challenges during the health pandemic. Certainly want to thank the banker on his perspective and all our federal partners that contributed their expertise in bringing forth this informative webinar. So, and thanks to all of you. Just want to ask that you provide us some feedback. Please complete the evaluation. The materials will be placed on the Small Business Administration website along with the Census website. And thank you, and this completes the webinar for today. Have a great day and be safe.
Thank you. Bye.
This does conclude today's conference. You may disconnect at this time. Speakers, please stand by.